Let's move on now to the basic problems that you face with abuse of domain names. So the first one I would bring to fore, which everybody knows, is cyber squatting. Basically, somebody knows, for instance, that this domain name is very valuable. Say, let's take an example of ciopakistan.org. Now, they think that CIO Pakistan would obviously want this because ciopakistan.com is something that somebody is using. So somebody goes out there, acquires ciopakistan.org, and then basically squats upon it and sets it up with either a parking page or a pay-per-click page or whatever else, maybe not even a page at all. And basically when CIO Pakistan wants to acquire it, they say, well, I guess if you really want it, you're going to have to pay me $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever they ask you for. And so that is a form of, I guess, loosely put, blackmail. And brand protection requires vigilance, not just of your trademark, but here now we're entering into the cyberspace also of your domain name and your presence of your brand name in the cyberspace. So you want to be careful of those sort of activities and take immediate action as you can, because if you don't take immediate action, what you're doing is you're consenting to that other party holding that domain name. So if ciopakistan.org is being held by somebody else and you just continue over years not to object to that, it could be considered a lack of vigilance on your part, and your rights over that domain name or to object to that domain name or its use may become fairly diminished. So I would caution you to take immediate action. What other sort of abuses could businesses and others, individuals, suffer? So for instance, somebody acquires a domain name xyjamil.com and decides that on this website they're going to put material about Zai Jamil. Now, obviously, it's not stuff that I have put up or authorized to be put up there. It could be defamatory, it could be inaccurate, it could be misguiding to other people, it could actually just be a form of spoofing. And I want to protect myself against that. So it's not just squatting, it's also impersonating. And then basically, if you're a big company, say you're Unilever and you have a big brand and a website is set up and you think that this belongs to that brand, you may actually start putting up ads. The squatter may start putting up ads onto that website, and through Google and other mechanisms could start collecting revenue because people are coming to this website thinking that they're coming to visit to a website which is associated with that brand. So the dilution of that brand, the reputation of that brand, and the fact that somebody else is starting to make money off that brand name becomes an issue. And that's another form of abuse, and actually someone's making money off it. So I would caution again businesses and individuals who want to protect themselves against that to take action and take precautions against that. The worst of all is the fraud and the issue of identity theft and spoofing, which occurs with the use of domain names. So for instance, the criminal activities where a bank, for instance, let's take an example of a bank we've seen in the past. I've used this in other presentations of mine, DIB, Faisal Bank. There are several other banks which are actually domain names which are actually not owned by those banks, but they look like they've been owned by those banks, and they actually have actual materials. You know, PIA, for instance, has a website, and if you go to that website, .pk, etc., you will find that this might actually not be PIA's website, but be a website of somebody else. Now that has a serious issue because you could actually say that I'm willing to sell tickets, or set up a portal where you can put your password and account number into it. Now that's identity theft, that's information theft, and it could actually lead to financial fraud. And that is a serious, serious issue when it gets closer to criminal activity on the internet. And if you're not cautious about your brand name, if you're a bank, for instance, or if you're a big business, say you're an FMCG, for instance, if you do not protect your domain name and be vigilant about whoever else is trying to either monetize that domain name or basically use it for criminal offenses, you might actually be doing your reputation harm, legal risks, other risks, and at the same time, consumers who are going to say, could sue you and say, well, look, isn't it your responsibility to protect this domain name? If I get fooled, did you let me know that this was out there? So those are important issues and risks that I think businesses need to now address in Pakistan and look at, be vigilant about setting up a trademark protection or brand protection group of people or individual who's responsible to look into these matters, and that's what my advice to most businesses. Moving on now to the sorts of legal protection one can acquire when registering domain names. The first one would be that please make sure that if this is in relation to or is the same as your brand name or a trademark, then your trademark is actually registered. So let's just take an example of CIO Pakistan. If CIO Pakistan is a trademark and registered, or it hasn't been registered, then I think CIO needs to go out and register that brand name. If you're a business or a bank and your name is Dubai Islamic Bank or Faisal, the first thing you would want to do is you would want to register the name of that bank or that business as well. That gives you certain protections under the law to say, look, I'm not just saying that I have a trademark, but I actually have a registered certificate from a trademark registry showing that I actually have registered this trademark. So I have rights and interests within or connected to this brand name and this name on the internet. So I think that would be the first stage. The second, in Pakistan, recently with the ordinance, the trademark ordinance and amendments there too, domain names have actually become registrable mandatorily by for businesses. So if anybody's trying to sell goods and services and they do that over the internet, they are bound by law under Pakistan trademark law to basically register, just like they would register a trademark, would also register the domain name. It would be the same form as that of a trademark, form TM, form number 1, and you'd go out there and while you're acquiring this domain, you would also have to register with the trademark registry in Pakistan. Little point here, note to self and others, this is not a very good approach from a policy perspective, because the trademark registry in Pakistan has absolutely no control over, for instance, CIOPakistan.com. This is internationally done. You can go and acquire it, use it, do what you want. And the trademark registry would have no enforcement arm or enforcement capability, or even its recognition or lack thereof would not affect your use of that domain name. So therefore, it is a highly ill-advised policy that was implemented as part of that law. But nonetheless, the law is as it stands, which is that you should register your domain name also before you acquire it. So before you go to GoDaddy and acquire it, technically what you're supposed to go is go to the trademark registry, apply for it, wait for 3 years like you'd wait for your trademark registry. Once they give you your registration, then you would basically be able to go out there and purchase that domain name. Don't forget, this is renewable every 3 years or 5 years, and you'd have to keep paying the trademark registry for basically having your domain name, although they have nothing to do with it. Nonetheless, moving on from there, there's another mechanism that is used by businesses, for instance, or people who use domain names or have portfolios, and that is of proxy, which means that when you register it, you don't register it in your own name, but you register it in the name of a proxy or a third party, or in Pakistan we would call it a Benami sort of registration. And that mechanism is also used, so nobody actually can get through that veil and to figure out who actually owns this. This is actually used a lot by even those people who want to maintain the privacy, but also by individuals who are trying to either cyber squat or monetize or conduct some sort of financial frauds. So anyway, but this is something, it's information that maybe businesses ought to know about. Finally, trademark management. It's important, I said this earlier, I think in this also, that businesses, etc., must start thinking of portfolios, must start pointing out people in their organizations or nominating them who will be responsible just for this, which is protection of their brand on the internet. Now, this could, for purpose in Pakistan, be managed by the trademark protection group in a big business, for instance, a brand protection group in the business. But it's an important area, and I think that's one of the practical ways that you'd start implementing as well.